not admitted without parents or guardian. Under 17 not admitted without parents or guardian. Under 17 not admitted without parents or guardian.
Cathy was 9 years old when she became an unholy terror. Cathy's curse. Look into her eyes and feel fear. Would such a lovable child strike such terror into those who love her?
My wife's just had another attack.
Don't make her angry, or Cathy will strike back and drive you right out of your mind.
I sent Mommy to the madhouse, the butler's scared to death. I threw Nanny out the window, now 3 of us are left. My daddy, my dolly, and me. Me.
Look into her eyes. She has the power to terrorize.
My daddy, my dolly, and me.
Cathy's curse.
Good evening, fans of fantastic films. I am Bill Van Ryn, editor of fanzine Drive-In Asylum and curator of Facebook page Groovy Doom. Joining me on tonight's Drive-In double feature is Cathy.
Hi.
Curse.
You bitch.
Listen, Cathy, we have to talk. Oh, Sam, it's really you.
Yes, it's just me.
This isn't what I signed on for. I wanted to talk to Cathy. Okay. This is Sam Panico from BNS About Movies and Drive-In Asylum.
Hello.
And we are here to watch 2 fantastic films tonight. The first of which, oh, hi, Cubby. The first movie we're going to watch tonight is Cathy's Curse. And it happens to be one of Sam's favorite films.
Sure is.
Cubby agrees.
Cubby 100% agrees. Cubby's Curse. And it is a Quebec movie that was edited in France. And the main actress who plays Cathy didn't even read the script before she showed up the first day and didn't realize she was going to be in a horror movie. None of that will influence or impact your enjoyment of this film whatsoever. Yeah, I think she did really well for her age and the amount of swearing that she would do in this movie. If you're into movies where kids swear, let me tell you what, this blows the Bad News Bears out of the water.
Her language really is the limit.
I adore this movie. I discovered it a couple of years ago, and Bill and I were talking before we started that if you ever looked at some of the newer DVD boxes for it, and when it's on streaming, the artwork for it has nothing to do with the movie. It has like a younger, kind of like goth-looking girl who does not appear in this movie, and so a lot of people would you'll see a lot of reviews on Amazon that'll say, I was waiting for that girl to show up in this movie, and it's just about an 8-year-old girl. Yeah, I know. So it is really more about the titular Cathy, who is we learn a lot about her family's past right in the beginnings. The movie starts in 1947, and there's swearing about women literally from the first 15 seconds, where the father screams, "Your mother's a bitch. She's going to pay for what she did for you." And then a rabbit runs out in the road and kills both of them. At that point, the first time I watched this movie, I was like, this is the greatest movie I've ever seen. And it gets better from there. This movie will continue to astound you with its abuse of old people, young people, other children. And the narrative, really, if you told me they were making it up like a role-playing game while they were on the set, I would believe you, because Cathy's powers are never fully defined. Does Cathy want to be cursed? Or is Cathy happy to have the powers? At times, she's wildly happy to have the powers. At other times, she's upset about them, especially when her face starts melting. Is there a painting that's haunted? Is there a doll that's haunted? Does she love her mother? Does she hate her mother? Some of the special effects are amazing. Some of them are as bad as shutting the camera off and having Cathy walk away to make it look like she's disappeared. Probably the best Western Canadian Exorcist ripoff ever, and the only. So what a movie to watch. And Bill and I talked about beforehand, this is National Drive-In Day. So if you're not at a drive-in, you're with us. So let's just pretend we're at a drive-in, and let's pretend this would be a double bill. And for some reason, I don't know why, Bill and I have picked all movies with unruly children week after week after week. And these are probably two of the most unruliest.
Yeah, we had and the movie last week that was not about children had the word children in the title.
Yeah. So this is, I would say, I did a list on my site of my favorite Exorcist ripoffs, and this is a little, maybe it's a little more Carrie than, I don't know. It's kind of Omen-ish. Yeah, if Carrier was a young girl. Let's say Exorcist ripoffs. This is up there on my list. It's a really fun movie, and if you like, I'm trying to think of a good blurb. If you liked Manhattan Baby, you'll like Cathy's Curse. That's a
Yeah, it's also a movie that features excessive abuse of alcohol in it too, as you saw in the trailer. I don't support any movie where the alcohol explodes.
There's more exploding statues in this movie than The Visitor, which, if we keep talking about it, it's going to end up on the show. But
we just have to embrace the fact that one of these weeks we're going to watch The Visitor for the show.
I really have to prep myself to watch The Visitor again, because it is a movie that the last time I watched it, it took a couple days of. It's all I thought about for a few days.
So we got lots of people in the chat already. Hi, Nora. Happy Saturday to you. Dustin Fallon says, "Woo!" I guess that's a happy sound. Or a scary sound.
He also seems like he's not wearing pants, so let's go with happy sound for that.
Yeah, and I totally forgot that Dustin's icon on Facebook is that Empire blow mold of Dracula. And I am so envious that he actually has one of those. And this drive-in does not require you to wear pants because none of us can see you. It's a virtual drive-in, and we embrace any kind of pantslessness.
All sure. I have on. Becca asked me to show my pants. I think Bill, we got you these same pants, these horror movie pants.
I almost wore those tonight too. I should.
Oh, did you? Yeah, I got on these fancy horror movie pants, and a Creepshow bootleg shirt that I bought in Las Vegas the first time I went out to Las Vegas to meet Becca's family. They had this crate shirt, so that's what fashionable stuff. I'm
Fluffy.
Yeah, Fluffy.
I love
and
Fluffy.
I have Fluffy with me. He's out of the crate.
Hi, Fluffy. I mean, Cubby. Fluffy's jaws are not like other living beings. Did you ever notice that?
Yes, I have.
It's like Fluffy's head is mostly a jaw.
Yeah. He's one of those Carnegie Mellon kids.
It had to be said, right?
Yeah, it had to be said. If you're not from Pittsburgh, you wouldn't get that joke, but you know. Buenos noches. That's what Cubby says. Cubby and I have been watching Mexican horror movies all day, and his Chihuahua heritage has really been helping us understand.
So some of our regulars are there: Mark Dockham, John Fulcher, hi guys, Frederick Birdsall, John Strikers, nice to see you, and Aaron Williams. It's nice to see you. It's the first time I've seen Aaron pop up in our chat. And he says, worse than Demon Witch Child. I would say Cathy is sort of on the level with Demon Witch Child.
Yeah. My favorite part is whenever she has all the kids outside and she starts screaming that all women are bitches and starts trying to stab other kids. It's really, I'm going to probably yell out loud at least 3 times during this movie because I get way too excited about it.
Bill Green has an interesting comment. He says, I watch The Visitor every couple of months and still have no idea what it's about. Join the club.
Yeah. There's whole characters that are in that movie I talked about last time. I don't know why Sam Peckinpah's character is even in it.
Because it's one of those kind of movies, you know. Who could we
Yeah.
get to be in this movie? Oh, Sam Peckinpah. Yeah, he'll be in
Who
it.
do we get to play Space Jesus? How about the Django?
Dave Rendon, nice to see you. He says, howdy, gents. And now, I was thinking about something earlier along the lines of the Killer Children movies. One of the ads that I made to promote this show said that it was the Battle of the Brats. So that's the way that I see tonight's program, because Cathy only has one on her side, but The Children, which is our second film, has a whole bunch of killer kids.
I think it's a really good example of how Canada and America are different, because in almost every Canadian possession movie I've seen, this would be the only one of them. Canadian children really just become unruly generally. They just get rude and they swear a lot. And American kids go straight for killing people with microwave fingernails. So it's a little different. Also, the town that Cathy lives in, this is my tail of the tape, I guess. If we were a fancier show, we'd have like graphics appear here next to us. Cathy's town is barren. It literally looks like the coldest town ever, and there's really no one around other than the psychic lady that lives next door who gets what's coming to her. Versus the children live in a town filled with some of the worst human beings. I mean, that town was shitty before the kids went bad. And nearly everybody in that town is sleeping around or into some scummy situations, and the children just add to it. I think that's been the difference with movies post 1980s, when we've talked about it before on the show, but nobody cared about children until probably like 85 or 86. Kids, you know, you could run out and do anything, and you just checked in at the end of the day. There's none of this texting or having a phone on kids. Versus like the movies that are horror today are mostly about bad parenting. If you think about it, the Babadook's just being a bad parent, and it's really not that scary. I would say that The Children and Cathy's Curse are much scarier. I also would pick these movies over any movie that's come out this year, but again, I'm playing my hand.
So I have some ads to show everyone for tonight's first feature, Cathy's Curse.
Awesome.
And you know, I always want to find the very first time a movie played in theaters, and this one was hard because this is a Canadian film. It opened in Canada in 1977, and here's an ad from its debut in Vancouver, November 1977. IMDb says it opened a little bit earlier than this, but I could not find any evidence of that.
It played on a ice floe in Moose Claw before that.
And then in December of 77, there were more screenings. Here's one from Windsor, Ontario, at the New Vanity, which I think is a wonderful name for a theater. Here's an ad from Saskatoon from September 1978. So this was like a year later that it finally reached Saskatoon, and starts tonight. So they were treating it like a new release. This is from when it first came out in the United States, which wasn't until May 1980.
Wow.
We didn't get Cathy's Curse for 3 years. Yeah. This ad blew me away when I found it. I'm used to just that same old ad with the creepy picture of Cathy's face, but this was something different that seemed to suggest that there was some, you know, scary shit going on in the movie, which, you know, may or may not be true.
I would argue that it's true.
It's the same company, 21st Century Releasing, that put out The Deadly Spawn. At least one other movie that we showed was a 21st Century release. And each of the ads, as you can see, goes back to this same nursery rhyme that we heard Cathy chanting while jumping rope in the trailer. I sent Mommy to the madhouse. I scared the butler to death. I threw Nanny out the window. Now 3 of us are left, which is how she said it in the trailer. Daddy, Dolly, and me. Cathy sounds antisocial, doesn't she?
She is. I think that's the other thing I thought was really interesting in this movie, that she's like super obsessed with the father, but it doesn't go as crazy as later films would.
Yeah.
21st Century actually put out Nightmare Bill and Blood Tide and Scalps and Don't Open Until Christmas.
Yeah, I forgot about the Nightmare. That was the other one that I was thinking of.
Yeah.
So there wasn't much to find about Cathy as far as newspaper ads, because they were, like I said, they were all mostly that same style. But at least I found that one different ad with the different stills from the movie.
See, I love seeing that different one. I had never seen that one before.
Yeah, I never even ran it on the page.
You know, if you recycled the ad from the child and put it in here, the child ad slick art would totally fit Cathy.
So I hear you have some cocktails for us.
I do. The first one we're going to make, if people want to make it, I'm going to make it and I'll talk through it. I was looking for something that would fit both movies thematically. So I found a cocktail called the Green Eyes Cocktail. And how perfect is that, right?
That's an affliction that Cathy suffers from, the green eye syndrome.
So we got, it helps if you have something like this. You can use Midori or any other drink that's named after a stripper. I'm using De Kuiper, which is named for one of Ilsa She Wolf of the SS's girls. So you're going to use an ounce of this. This thing is an amazing invention. Probably invented way before I was born, but I'm still fascinated by it. Oh boy, that's super green. I feel like I'm going to go to Blood Island. It's that green.
Are you going to take the green blood oath?
100% will be taking the green blood oath when that movie plays. By the way, if anyone hasn't seen, I watched the Al Adamson documentary this week, and it is even better than I thought it was going to be. It's amazing. Probably better than any of his movies. Admiral Nelson has coconut now. Admiral Nelson is my favorite rum because he's basically the captain, but he's the good side of the captain. His leg is flipped the opposite way. His colors are reversed. He is literally the Antichrist for Captain Morgan.
Interesting choice of words.
Yeah. I mean, if antithesis maybe might be better. We're going to do a little pineapple juice up in this next. I've been making a lot of drink. Pineapple juice is de rigueur in my bar. I hope it is in yours too. It's also kind of messy. It's hard to make stuff on camera, but you don't expect me to be a complete pro here. Bill and I talked about these before. I'm super excited about this. I've switched to Cocoa Reel and Squeeze versus the old school way of getting Cocoa Reel, which was in cans, which is, if anyone has ever made, it literally looks like the stuff. Like, it's not pretty at all. And you're going to use, it says a half an ounce, but, go with your heart. Listen to your heart when it's calling your name. And a half a lime. That's it. And then just some ice, and you shake it up, and you got Cathy's curse right in your mouth. Which sounds way worse than it is.
It sounds like something, absolutely nasty. But I want to see the finished product here.
You will. I'm going to shake it up.
Make sure you smile when you shake it. That's what they say on Bar Rescue.
Oh, really?
I don't know.
Do you watch Bar Rescue?
Yeah, I watch Bar Rescue more than I would like to, actually.
Is that your choice or is that Mark's choice?
Mark likes to watch it. I like to watch it too, but it makes my blood pressure go up to see people screaming at each other.
Yeah. That guy loves to scream.
That's why I stay out of politics too.
Yeah, me too.
Lana's here. Hi, Lana. And Paul Workmeister. Nice to see you, Paul. Paul Workmeister says Al Adamson's life and the documentary are infinitely better than any of his films.
Seriously, the documentary is like the Venn diagram of everything I love. Like, who else worked with Manson and Colonel Sanders in the same lifetime? So it's really good. It's got some alien stuff in it. It's got true crime in it. It's got everything. All right, here we go. I'm going to smile. I'm going to pretend the guy from Bar Rescue is screaming at me.
Let's see some energy, some energy. This is your livelihood.
All right. That is cold.
That was excellent.
Thank you. This for the ladies. Not guys. And I have a special glass for. Look at that little snifter.
Oh, fancy.
Just like Cathy's eyes.
Right on.
Let's see.
That looks suspiciously like something that came out of my garbage disposal last week.
It tastes really good, actually. It's very limey, and it's got a lot of citrusy notes to it, as they say.
Limey is an incendiary word.
I don't mean it like that or like the movie with Terrence Stamp in it. Our next drink is literally a drink that I concocted that we'll have for the children. It'll have Dr. Pepper and rum in it, and suspiciously coconut again.
I'm liking the themes of tonight's drinks because those are my favorite kind of drinks, you know. Fruity. And you can take that as you will.
You know what's funny? I've really noticed at first it's kind of intimidating to start to buy stuff for your bar. But as you make more stuff, you realize that the pineapple juice is pretty much, you can use pineapple juice in a ton of different things. Orange juice, you don't really need bitters, even though I bought bitters. And also tonight, this is what else I got at the store. This won't be in the recipe this week, but once we decide on next week, we'll probably have some balls in it.
Oh, right on.
Right?
You have all the right stuff in your bar.
Yeah. Becca ordered me a bar this week. A little thing to put my bar in.
Any kind of
cabinet.
Any drink that includes Midori is all right with me.
There's a melon ball recipe on here too, Bill.
Oh, that's my favorite.
Is it?
Yeah.
I've never had that.
It's just Midori and pineapple juice.
This one is melon liqueur, vodka, and orange juice. So it's kind of like the screwdriver you like, but with a little melon.
Yeah. Yeah.
That does sound like something you'd enjoy.
Nora Wallace says vodka and tequila are the basis for over half of all drink recipes, and I think she's right. Let's talk about what John Fulcher said. Who could play Al Adamson in an Ed Wood type biopic?
That's a great question.
I don't know. I'd kind of like to see Matthew Lillard. Matthew Lillard has that over the top sort of, you know, character quality about him.
Yeah, the movie's great because Gary Kent's in it. Bud Carlos is in it. It really gets in almost everybody I love into one movie.
Bud Carlos.
Yeah. He talks in the movie. He's like, yeah, I had a plane, and he used to love that I would be willing to hit cars with my plane. So, you know, whenever I'd go to leave somewhere, I'd just touch down on the roof of a car, and someone would film it by hanging out the window. Billy Bob Thornton is a really good pick, Mark just said. I think that's a great pick.
Yeah. We did the ad gallery. We did the drink. Anything else you want to talk about before we go into Cathy's Curse? Or do you want to say some stuff to talk about after the movie's over?
I'll just set up one thing because hopefully, I don't know how many, we usually ask, and I forgot to ask how many people this is the first time watch for.
Oh, yeah. Make sure if it's your first time watching, make sure you mention it.
Mark just made me laugh about Bill's drinking during Deadly Spawn night. That just got me.
Don't encourage me, Mark.
I think for the last half should be like Driving Asylum After Dark, where Bill gets a big mic, like the old Playboy show, and has like a cognac, and then just holds court.
Can I get a smoking jacket too?
Dude, it's been a dream for me to have a smoking jacket.
I think that's an easy dream to realize.
I know. I think my wife would probably love that.
Okay, Aaron says that this is the first time he's seen Cathy's Curse, and Sean has an interesting way of putting it. He says he's popping my Cathy's Curse cherry tonight.
Oh man, I'm really excited for people to see this the first time because it really has parts of the movie that don't make any sense.
Just parts of it?
Yeah, well, the whole thing. So those are my favorite kind of movie to make people watch, whereas Bill's favorite movie is movies that take long periods of time for anything to happen.
If anything happens.
And yeah, nothing usually happens. Something happens at the end.
If you're lucky, something will happen at the end before the credits.
Becca just yelled, "The credits happen."
Yeah.
What's that? There's one movie I was just thinking of, that science fiction movie where everybody has that plague and they get exploded anytime.
Oh, the Alpha Incident.
Yeah, the Alpha Incident. That's a great example of a Bill movie.
Yeah, not much happens in that.
It's like a lot of conversations, and then a whole bunch of shit happens, and then a lot of conversations. I'm really excited because a lot of people in here are really coming up and saying this is a first time watch. So that's really exciting to me.
Yeah, there's a couple. Paul Doliner, Mark Dockham. A lot of these people haven't seen it and that's what we're all about here at the Drive-In Asylum double feature, is spreading the love. And
I want to thank John. I'm going to mispronounce his name for you. Striker. Oh, I get it now. Too much green drink. I'm used to seeing people spell their name like Jeff Stryker. That's an 80s reference, and no one's in it. Bill would be the only one to get. He said he posted the trailer in every group that he belongs to, so that's super awesome. Thank you very much for doing that.
Yeah, we appreciate any kind of exposure that you are willing to give us. So thank you very much, John Strikers. Where did you get that mask, by the way?
Severn gave it to me when I was at their booth talking to them about stuff. They said, "Well, we know you like Cathy's curse, so do you want a mask?" And Becca was like, "Yeah, yes, we need this mask." So yeah, I was supposed to frame it and put it up, and I just haven't done it. And it's been sitting next to my movies, and so there it shall sit.
Paul Doliner says Zombie 4 or 5. I think you are talking about Jeff Stryker, Paul Doliner. He is in Zombie 4.
He is in Zombie 4.
Of course, not doing what he usually did in movies.
No. Yeah.
And John Fulcher is a Cathy virgin here, too.
Oh, man.
So, this is an exciting night.
I really wish that this was playing at a drive-in so I could hear everybody yell during the movie, during some of the scenes. It is really a movie to be experienced out loud.
I can't wait to find out what everyone thinks of this after, because the first time I saw it, I was like, why are they doing that? The whole time I was watching the movie, I'm like, why is she doing that? Why are they doing that?
Without giving too much away, because I don't want to say too much more and get it started, but when any typical movie that has a traditional narrative, when they bring the psychic in, you're like, oh well, this is going to be. It's just like Poltergeist, right? When you meet the psychic, you're like, oh well, this is the person that's going to help solve the problem.
That's the exposition. Like they're finally going to tell you what's going on.
And no, just a spoiler.
It's even more confusing after the psychic comes in.
Yeah, and it's like you would think that the psychic would end the powers, like. And if you have any questions, like I love, yeah, she's just not a good psychic. Becca said we watch movies with Becca's parents a lot, and this is a movie that I would never watch with them because they ask a lot of questions during movies, and this is a movie that I have a lot of questions about, and I've seen it at least probably 15 or 20 times. It's probably, let's say this is 21. I'll still have more questions after. Maybe I'll ask everybody after it. The virgins in the audience.
The psychic in this movie could use some pointers from Teresa Caputo.
Yes. the Long Island psychic.
Her cold reading's a little off.
I actually studied how to do cold reading. It's pretty simple. Like the big audience, John Edwards cold reading.
Yeah.
It's super easy because you basically just start out with what letters do most names start with. So if you're like, I'm getting someone has a J, there's a Joe or a Jeff, and I'm feeling somebody was really connected to them and lost. And then like you ever notice, like if they don't get a bite, they jump right away to the next one. But it's like, it's all about playing the odds.
It also helps if you already have a reputation for being some kind of magical being that can read the thoughts of people who passed away.
That said, I did see Kreskin pull an address out of somebody once. And he claims that his stuff isn't magic. It's all just mental techniques and stuff. And it was pretty crazy because like he got the guy's address down to the street number. And I don't know how you would memorize an entire audience. I'm sure there's a trick to everything, right? But it was pretty awesome. Then I actually got to talk to Kreskin for about 20 minutes afterwards. And '70s kid was super. Mike Douglas watcher was super happy to do.
Mike Douglas is going way back. I already have all these like 60s style flowers growing all over me since you said that name.
But my favorite Mike Douglas thing is in The Nutty Professor. One Eddie Murphy's character, she goes, "Oh, Mike Douglas, he's the only white boy that ever got me wet."
She needed to get out more.
Yeah, exactly. So let's start Cathy's curse.
All right, let's start Cathy's curse. And here is the link to the movie. I'm going to send it to the chat. And plus, I also posted the links on the Groovy Doom page. So you can go back to the main page and follow it there. It doesn't matter if we're all on the same place in the movie. You know, just go watch the movie, come back, and we'll talk about it. We'll give you some time to get a snack from the kitchen, and we'll start talking again after Cathy's Curse from 1977. And I think you're going to really love it. And I mean that sincerely. And we'll see you back here after the movie, okay? Bye-bye.
Under 17 not admitted without parents or guardian.
We are back after the traumatizing Cathy's Curse. And I made it. Did you?
Yes, I love this movie, and I love it even more after watching it again.
There's so many things bouncing around inside my head right now. But the first and foremost thing is, why did her mother keep calling her doll a filthy rag?
I think that a lot of the movie was improv, and like that's all she had to stick to. Do you know what I mean? And she was just like, filthy rag. I want to know why Mick Fleetwood stayed with them so long. Like, he got abused so badly. Like, and you said, wait, he's still alive? Like, the first time I saw this, I thought he got killed too. And then he comes back, and then he just keeps coming back. And, like, something bad happens every single time that she gets watched by him. And yet they still keep letting him do it.
Yeah.
And he keeps coming back.
The minute, I thought when there were snakes and spiders all over him, of the harmless variety, but don't tell anyone. I thought that was the end of him, but then there he was, and like he just kept. Although he had a lot of alcohol, so that probably explains why he stuck around so long.
Also, it's like, where did those snakes come from in Canada? This is filmed in Canadian summer. There are only 4 inches of snow in Quebec.
Do they even know what a snake is?
What's a snake a boot? Well, when you get those tax credits, you can waste them on snakes and all sorts of rodents. I think the best part, obviously, of the movie to me still is when the medium comes upstairs in the attic and gets abused in that split screen shot. That's really great. And then there's a lot of, obviously, came out before The Shining, but a lot of it, the music cues are a little bit like it near the end. The music gets pretty great near the end.
John Fulcher says, Cathy reminded me of a young Anna Paquin from the X-Men movies. I can see it.
Becca thinks she looks like the Bush daughter who's on the CBS. Or no, is that CBS or is that NBC on the Today Show? Oh. Yeah, who's on with Hoda, the one Bush daughter. She looks.
There was somebody that she reminded me a little of Marsha Brady.
Yeah, I think it's the hair, the 70s hair. She probably brushed her hair 100 times on each side.
I thought, no, she doesn't really look like Marsha Brady. That's just me because I always have the Brady Bunch on my mind. But I think it was actually a Marsha Brady thing she had going on with her long, flat hair and that cherubic face.
Yeah. By the way, Dustin Found's amazing because he said it. The dad looked like a combination of Kelsey Grammer and Evan Stone, which is 100% true.
Yeah.
Also,
He had a Hal Holbrook haircut, though.
he did. Becca threatened to give me that haircut during this movie. So look for me next week to have the hair from the dad from Cathy's Curse. Also, Bill, did you go visit Ann B. Davis when she lived in town?
Yes, I was always over her house, but she never invited me, and she always called the police.
You
No,
wanted
she
her
lived
in
a
your center
compound.
square.
She belonged to this like religious order, and she lived in a compound, I think.
Yeah, in Ambridge, I think.
Yeah, yeah, it was definitely Ambridge. You can drive by where she used to live. I mean, I think there's something that says somewhere that Ann B. Davis lived here. She was
Welcome to Ambridge, one-time home of Ann B. Davis and Old Economy.
she was a defining moment in our culture. Ann B. Davis, a touchstone individual. John Stryker says sharp station wagon, and yeah, the cars in this movie were really rocking my world, especially those flammable kind that as soon as you drive them into a ditch, they burst into flames immediately.
Mark is true. There's a lot of wallpaper in this movie, the yellow wallpaper especially. To call back to something Sean said, that it was Vito Asinitis helped direct this. This movie is thematically perfect to play, not just with the children, but with the visitor. If we did this is why Bill and I don't get to run the drive-in at Riverside, because we would make people watch this, the children, the child, and the visitor all in one night, and nobody would come back for the second night.
Nice to see Mick Fleetwood was able to get some work between drumming gigs. I'm glad I'm not the only person that drew that connection.
My wife has called him Mick Fleetwood for a while.
He certainly drank as much as the real Mick Fleetwood
Yeah.
Curly
He
does.
made love and fun.
Kyle Pauling says the visitor best dunk. I think he means drunk on or dunk on.
There's basketball. There's a lot of basketball in the visitor, just to be fair.
Oh, dunk. Yeah.
Yeah.
I prefer the disco mirror scene myself.
Yeah. Is it better than The Fish That Saved Pittsburgh, a film that posits that Pittsburgh has a basketball team?
I saw The Fish That Saved Pittsburgh on opening night. I really did. Yeah, I did.
Oh man, I saw it on HBO. I think I was too young to get my parents would never take me to see that. They would only take me to movies like Hardly Working, the worst movie I've ever seen in my entire life.
Well, it had to be PG rated for me to
Yeah.
go see it, and Fish That Saved Pittsburgh was PG. You know, a lot of times you would just go to a movie because of what it was rated, because there was nothing else that you could see, or that was the most interesting thing. It was either that or a travelogue, so you went to see The Fish That Saved Pittsburgh.
My parents would take us to movies and always late. They would always be like 20 minutes late. And then they would hide us in the theater, and they would tell us to go hide and then wait for the movie to start again, and we'd watch the whole movie again. I was raised by carnies. Your
parents were worse than The Parents and the Children, our second feature.
Oh, that's debatable.
Which is the movie that it's a parable about what really happens when you're a terrible parent. What happens to your children? They become radioactive zombies that can microwave you. So our second feature, The Children, was filmed in 1980, and the director's name was Max Kalamowitz, and it was produced by Carlton Albright. Now, these guys went on to make another movie together, Luther the Geek, except for Max Kalamowitz. There was a lot of broken relationships in The Children. Carlton Albright actually wrote the story for The Children, and he was going to have Ed Terry direct. Ed Terry plays, if you've seen Luther the Geek, he plays Luther the Geek. But in The Children, he plays one of the redneck guys that form a posse and help out the sheriff when they need him to. And Ed Terry was supposed to be the director of The Children, and he had some issues, and it forced Carlton Albright to hire a new director, who was Max Kalamowitz. And
who only has one other credit? Dreams Come True. Is that his other movie?
It is, yeah. That's the movie that they went on to make after The Children, and they made it in Wisconsin. According to his commentary track on The Children, they made the movie in Wisconsin and not with Bill Rebane, which was my first thought. I'm like,
Yeah.
oh, they filmed it at Bill Rebane's studio in Wisconsin, but I don't think that's the truth. They filmed it in Oshkosh, Wisconsin, where he said that all that they did there was make cars and clothes.
The description of it's great. A young couple masters the supernatural art of astral projection, which allows them to travel through dreams, explore their fantasies, and make a whole lot of love.
It was a movie that went nowhere, and I think it played the Cannes Film Festival, and then after that, I don't think anybody picked it up for distribution. I think that was his point in telling the story about dreams come true, and that was the only other film that he worked on. He produced another film. He acted as a producer on another film.
I would just want to, not to interrupt, but
No,
Dustin said dreams did not come true. Also, shout out to Kyle who saw Super Fuzz on opening night. That Super Fuzz is one of my favorite movies, and I actually saw it at the drive-in on a double bill with Police Academy. And they must have broke Super Fuzz out of doldrums. And it has another title. It's Super Speezer or something. But man, it's a movie of its time where a cop learns how to the color red stops him, but otherwise he gets superpowers. Sergio Corbucci, who did some of the bloodiest spaghetti westerns ever, directed that movie, which still blows my mind.
I remember seeing that movie at the drive-in. I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, Terrence Hill's in it. It's a Terrence Hill one. He also Corbucci also did Navajo Joe with Burt Reynolds, and a lot of Thomas Milan movies. He did the Hellbenders. He did a lot of really rough movies as a director, and then somewhere along his career, he started doing these Trevor Hill movies that were more comedies. But yeah, I remember seeing Super Fuzz was I think probably I saw it when I was 8, so I probably was super into it. And yeah, it is true. Midnight Madness and Super Fuzz are those are the HBO movies that I remember. The other HBO movie obviously is Beastmaster, because growing up HBO stood for Hey Beastmaster's on, or TBS stood for the Beastmaster station. But those Beastmaster 2, Becca just said, is a big favorite here. I think that kids are going to miss out on many things, but they're going to miss out on only having 8 movies for an entire station. And you're going to watch Flash Gordon was on an awful lot, and so was Biggles Adventures in Time, which is a movie that no one should ever watch.
The Black Hole was another big one. They showed The Black Hole all the time.
I love that movie, and it's not great, but I love it.
I don't know. I tried to like that movie so many times. Well, as many times as it was on HBO, I still watched it.
My brother
watched movies you didn't like because that's all that was on.
My brother was obsessed with Vincent. I get to say his name with all the dots. The robot. There was Old Bob and Vincent, and he got a hat from Disney. I don't know where he got it, at Hills probably, but it was a hat, and the top of the head was the robot, and it had red eyes, and he had a Vincent doll. My brother kept a special box of toys that nobody was allowed to look at, and he would tell you about them, but you weren't allowed to look at them in his bunk bed. He, of course, had the top bunk bed, and he would just say, he's like, well, I have Vincent up here, but you can't look at him. Like, I don't give a shit. Like, that movie, it's not that great. Though there is a comic book that came out of it that Jack Kirby did the art for that tells the story a little further, and I wish they had filmed the comic versus the actual movie they filmed. But the end, the last 10 minutes of it when they go into hell, you have to say, Bill, the last 10 minutes are pretty rocking. Once you get past all the humans doing stuff, that's the way I am as a kid. Like, every Godzilla movie is like that too. It's like, let's get all this stuff out. And then the only other good thing that came from the Black Hole was that they put one of those Disney sound effect records out for it, the Disney science fiction sounds. And I used to play that record, just that record, nothing else. Of just listening to doors whooshing and opening, and it's probably why I'm so weird. I listened to that record way too much.
Yeah, that was another event movie that they built up, like King Kong 76.
Oh.
They really were going to make sure that the Black Hole was the next Star Wars, which it was, obviously, right?
I mean, sure. There was a good 4-year window in between the Star Wars, which we were talking about during the movie. The Cathy's Curse came out the same year as Star Wars, so imagine. But between Star Wars and Empire, there was a lot of time for kids like me to try to find other science fiction, and maybe we found it in Star Crash or we found it in Battle Beyond the Stars, which both movies which I love more than any Star Wars movies. I mean, and Last Starfighter, like I said, but how many of those movies have Joe Spinell as Darth Vader? Only one.
John Fulcher, get your mind out of the gutter. Or in fact, don't, because then you might not want to keep watching this broadcast. Did you know, Rebecca, that Ben Tramer is in our chat?
Oh my God, he is. Ben Tramer is in our chat. Yeah. Justice for Ben Tramer.
I'd rather go out with Ben Tramer.
Is he dead in the new Halloween universe, or is he alive in the new Halloween universe?
I hope he's still alive, because I think at the end, Laurie and Ben Tramer should finally get together.
I guess there's a new scene with Dr. Loomis in the new movie, which I reacted with no excitement to whatsoever. But
what do you mean there's a new scene with Dr. Loomis in it?
I guess there's a flashback in the new one they're filming now that they go back to 78 and you see Dr. Loomis. So I guess they're going to CGI Donald Pleasance into it.
Oh, no.
Ben Tramer said he's getting ready for his date with Laurie.
You
Don't
be
wear
nice
that
to her,
mask.
Ben, because she really likes you and she's kind of shy. So
Yeah.
treat her well. She will smoke a little joint with you, though, if you want to, because she can be coerced.
Speaking of smoking, that's one of the things that struck me about the children so much is in 1980 nobody cared about pregnant women smoking, because there's a lot of pregnant women smoking in this movie.
Yeah, the lead actress in the film is Gail Garnett, who had a hit in 1964 with "We'll Sing in the Sunshine," and she did, and she was a TV actress before that. I don't think she started out in theatrical films, and she wrote and recorded that song, which was a big hit for her. So she probably made a lot of money off of it. At least I hope she did.
She's not the only singer too, because isn't Molly, the lady that runs the general store, the dispatcher? She was a famous singer in the 40s, right?
Oh, I didn't know about that. I know Molly she was a stage actress.
Yeah, she was Shannon Bowen, and she was known as the lady with the dark blue voice, whatever that means.
Ben says he digs Annie more.
Well, I don't know about that.
Well, she's taken, Ben, and so is Linda, at least currently. So you have to wait till one of them breaks up with Paul or Bob. Or maybe something will happen to Paul or Bob, and you'll get a chance.
What about Lonnie?
Who?
What's that kid's name that he yells out?
Lonnie Lamb.
Lonnie Lamb.
Lonnie Lamb probably won't get out of the 3rd grade.
No, he probably won't.
It's not hard to talk about Halloween, even though we're supposed to be talking about the children.
Yeah. I really enjoyed it. I hadn't seen this movie, actually. I watched it because I do those Scarecrow video challenges every year. And this was, I had to do a movie that had evil kids in it. And it seemed like everybody was going to do probably like Children of the Corn or Who Could Kill a Child or, there's a lot, the basics, right? Village of the Damned. And it was finally my chance to watch The Children. And I'm glad I picked it. It's very nihilistic. It's funny. I think there's a lot of humor to it, but this is not, nobody gets out of this easy.
That's very well said. It's extremely downbeat, and it's also very sick, if you ask me. And it's gleefully sick too. The filmmakers actually had some problems after they finished the movie and got it out in production. It made a lot of money in the United States, and of course, the filmmakers ended up not seeing very much of the money that it made. But when it was time to sell it to other markets, they had a deal going with the Asian markets where they were going to put it out in Japan. First they went to Japan, and Japan, they were interested in it, but they said, before we show it in theaters, you have to take out all of the scenes of the children getting their hands cut off. Because it was just too much. Like they said, we can't show that kind of thing in a theater. Like, you can't have violence against a child like that. And there's even more of like an implication of, because the sheriff actually uses a katana to cut the children's hands off. So they were like, you have to take that out. We can't have, and they said, well, no, we won't take it out because we have integrity. We have artistic integrity. So it just didn't come out in Japan. And China had a problem with it too.
It's crazy because I was reading about video nasties the other day, doing some research, and there's movies even before video nasties that got super edited in England, like Enter the Dragon. All the nunchuck scenes were taken out of Enter the Dragon because nunchucks are illegal. And the same as Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, even the word ninja had to be taken out for the British market. They're really big about taking out any like martial art weapons references. It's obviously a big problem in England. A lot of ninjas had been problems. So I could see the katana scene having a lot of issues with people worldwide.
But he said they probably lost a couple $1 million by doing that. And then in retrospect, it was really stupid of them to just not cut the scenes out like they wanted, because, you know, John Stryker says, when a movie is too weird for Japan, you know it's a winner. And
trust me, I watched Tetsuo the Iron Man last night, and I don't know what is too weird for Japan anymore.
But the movie
was a couple years.
This is a really strange movie because it's, like I said before, it's extremely violent towards children, which is something you really did not see in movies. And it goes way over the line with it. Not only do children turn into zombies and kill other people, but there are victims of the children who are also other children. But I think, like you said, it's a little bit, it's extremely ridiculous. First off, I mean, like, the whole concept is ridiculous, and it's maybe not meant to be taken so seriously. So,
yeah, it's funny though, if you think about movies that pretty much movies where kids got killed in them kind of stopped in probably the 90s, I'd say. Post PG-13, it doesn't happen too often anymore. But I was thinking about the remake of The Blob, and that scene where the kid gets killed in the sewers.
Yeah.
And you're like, of course he's going to survive. And he comes back out of the water and he's all destroyed by the blob. That movie is amazing, by the way. I wish it was on YouTube so we could use it, but it's not.
Yeah, I love the remake of The Blob too.
We should. That's actually when Becca and I first started dating. It's one of the first movies we watched. She picked it. She said, have you ever seen this? And I was like, oh, getting married.
Had you seen it, or did she show it to you the first time?
I had seen it, but I had not seen it since it had come out.
Yeah, I went to see it in the theater.
Ben Tramer did say that Halloween 2018 did have a kid getting killed, and that's probably the only part that I like of that movie.
The number one Shawnee Smith fan.
Becca said she's the number one Shawnee Smith fan in the world, so that's why she should. She also likes
on.
Donovan Leitch.
Shawnee Smith forever.
That movie's also surprising because it totally sets you up to think Donovan Leitch is going to be the hero. So when he gets killed, that movie is really great at pulling the stops out on you. Paul, yeah. I really
he gets killed early on.
Yeah, and like everything up, even like there's the condom gag and all that stuff. You're kind of led to believe that this is like a little bit of Porky's, a little bit of fun science fiction movie, and then it goes full on gore in a big way. So I love it. But we should before we talk a little bit more. I know you got to show the pictures for the children, and I got to show how to do this drink. But we should tell people what we're going to watch next week so they can get ready.
Next week we have a fantastic double feature of water death. And it's
fantastic.
Fantastic because it's a double shark lineup. The first thing we're going to watch is Cruel Jaws, also known as Jaws 5. I'm not kidding. And also the second feature we're going to watch is
Great White,
the Italian ripoff of Jaws that got sued out of theaters in 1982.
And I'll tell you, Cruel Jaws almost came out on Blu-ray from Shop Factory until they realized that all the shark deaths in it are ripped off from other movies, including Jaws 2 and 3. So supposedly Severin's putting it out. They have a big sale coming up, so it may be one of their new movies coming out. So maybe we'll be ahead of the curve, and people will get introduced to Cruel Jaws before they can actually buy it. But I love both these movies, and Bill and I did an entire shark issue with a bunch of other people. So there's a lot of love for shark movies. So I'm super excited. Now I have to figure out some shark-based drinks for next week.
Well, you could also get some cool garnish items like a shark tooth and maybe, some cool umbrellas. There's all sorts of things you can do to dress up your drink.
I used to have a shot glass that it was a Jaws one that had a little tiny shark on the bottom. So when you finish drinking it, there's a little shark peeking out. So,
well, one person's excited. Ben Tramer says Cruel Jaws is glorious. Oh, and Aaron's excited about it too. So I think we made some good decisions. So that settles it. Next weekend, Cruel Jaws and Great White. So what do you want to do first? Do you want to do your drink first, or do you want to do the ad gallery first?
I'll tell you what, we want you to do the ad gallery, and I'll prepare my accoutrements, as we say.
Very well. So let's get to it. The Drive-In Asylum ad gallery for our second feature, which is The Children, a gruesome little sickie from 1980 that probably everybody has seen here. At least I hope so, because this is one of those movies that just, you can't shake it after you've seen it. It's so weird and it's so despicable that it burns itself into your brain. It opened in Tucson, Arizona. It's got this weird ad campaign. There isn't much ad variation for The Children, but what it does have is like the assortment of grinning children. And they remind me of the children from Salem's Lot, the Kiddie Vampires. And so maybe they had a little bit of that going on too. There's a scene in the movie that is straight from Salem's Lot with this kid that looks like a vampire hovering outside of somebody's bedroom window. I can remember when this came out, this had one of those ad campaigns that included TV spots that were on way too early for their own good, which of course made me want to see the movie because nobody could figure out what the heck it was about. We would talk about these movies at school, and we'd be like, oh, well, did you see that new one that was in the paper, The Children? What could that be about? And there was always someone whose older brother actually went to the movie to see it. They had all the info, so they would tell you about it if you were lucky.
I really miss those radio ads. Those radio ads were awesome.
Since the ad campaign really isn't that varied, I just have a bunch of the same to show you. So I picked out some interesting double features. Here's one where it was showing with The Orphan, which is also known as Friday the 13th. And when the actual Friday the 13th by Sean Cunningham came out, they had to ask the makers of The Orphan if they could use that title because they had it first. And The Children and Friday the 13th have something interesting in common. They both have the same composer, Harry Manfredini. And
that's right.
It's unmistakable because a lot of the music in The Children is directly from Friday the 13th. And The Children came first. Here's an actual double feature of The Children and Friday the 13th. And I just think this is one of my favorite ads of all time. I made a poster out of it. It was a very lowbrow movie at the time. It just was savaged by the critics. And, you know, any bad thing you say about this movie is probably accurate because the acting isn't going to win any awards. The special effects are effective, but they're not knock your socks off. And ultimately, it just ends up being a little bit ridiculous what happens to the victims and in the children. But it's also very weird. And it's kind of not what you would expect.
There's a lot of bad hugging in this movie. Bad touching.
It's all about invading your personal space, which you shouldn't do, right?
Especially now.
Yeah, see, it all comes back to the coronavirus eventually.
Yeah.
So that's our children ad gallery. And it looks like Sam's ready to give his demonstration of his second drink. And please tell us all about it.
So this is, I use Diet Dr. Pepper. Obviously, you can use Dr. Pepper. If you're cool enough to live down south and can get sugar Dr. Pepper, by all means. I use Diet Dr. Pepper. So you can use about a whole can. Go with your heart. We're going to use the last of that coconut in here. This is it's a mix of a dirty Dr. Pepper's the name I've seen this called. But you kind of mix the coconut into the Dr. Pepper, and then I can't wait to switch out to the squeeze bottles of coconuts versus the can. The technology, the future that I live in now is going to be so rich. And then you get a lime here, and you get about a half a lime, and squeeze it into the drink. You wouldn't think lime and Dr. Pepper would go together too well, but you'd be wrong. I made one of these as a test. I actually care so much about you guys as I'm making Dr. Peppers here that I taste tested this earlier this week, and one of them knocked me on my ass. So that should explain the potency of the children. The most important ingredient, we're going to go with some plantation rum. Pretend that we're on Blood Island here. And we're going to take 2 shots of it. Maybe a little more for the kids. For the children. There we go. Need to stir that up. The hard part is, I think, once you switch to this new coconut, if you can find this in your store, it's a little easier to mix that into your beverages. But it's pretty amazing because it still tastes like Dr. Pepper, but it gets like a nice foamy head on it, almost like a root beer float, which is kind of different. And in honor of Ben Tramer, I'm drinking it out of the Many Moods of Michael Myers mug. So that's a Spirit Store exclusive that I bought for half off.
It's making a second appearance on the Drive-In Asylum double feature as well.
I should have actually used my greatest mug. Did I show you my deep red mug?
Yeah, you did.
Yeah, I have that, and I have a Ouija one too. So those are my good drinking mugs.
See, you were so trash. That was the night of the Deadly Spawn.
Yeah, that's also the night I had to switch to the sippy cup.
It's all a blur to you. And me as well.
Did I see the Deadly Spawn? I don't even remember.
You did. You even talked about it. Lana has a great comment, if I can interrupt for a minute. She says they should make a sequel to this called The Adults.
It would be kind of like Blue Sunshine, like the kids that survived, like it stayed in their system.
Well, ironically, in the Vinegar Syndrome commentary, Max Kalamowitz said that he was approached about doing a sequel to The Children called The Children 2, and that was exactly the plot. The baby that was born at the end of the movie grew up to be an adult and still had those radioactive fingernails, and they were keeping him locked up in a laboratory and studying him to see what made him tick.
Oh, man. So it's kind of a little bit of It's Alive 3, a little bit of The Children, but no Blue Sunshine's a really good, that's the reason I've never done acids, because of that movie.
Me too.
Right?
If that can happen to you, sorry. I'll stick with something a little more kinder and greener.
Yeah, what an effective anti-drug movie.
So is that the end? Is that the end of your drink demonstration?
At the end of the drink, it's pretty simple to make, and it's basically, again, it's just Dr. Pepper, coconut, lime, and a good amount of rum, and ice. Always ice. You can always freeze up your Dr. Pepper like I do before I put the can in the freezer for 20 minutes. Don't do that as you drink more, because inevitably you'll forget the can's in there, and you'll wake up to quite the mess and probably an angry wife or husband.
I'm a little fascinated by this whole squeeze coconut concept.
It really is amazing.
Because every time I've ever made a drink with that in it, I've had to wrestle with that teeny tiny little can that I always end up slashing one of my fingers open on.
Yeah, and the nice thing is this, I guess this works. It's the same brand, the Coca Real. But the other thing too is, like, the old can never switched out its label for years. It still has that like 50s kind of look. I looked all over for this, finally found it, Giant Eagle. Becca's like, look, I'm just going to buy you a couple of them. Yeah, so that, and if you have any other requests you'd like to see me try, obviously this show's about movies, but it's nice to have a drink. That's my favorite thing about going to the drive-in. The first time I went to the Riverside, I said to Becca, I said, do you think they allow drinking here? And then I looked and someone had a whole bar with 2 blenders on it.
One thing I will say before the movie begins is that this has one of the weirdest collection of adults that could ever exist in a small town that have access to children. You know, it's really sort of groundbreaking because it does feature a lesbian family. There's a lesbian couple, and they have a young son. But of course, they're bad parents too, because the mother is addicted to pills, and the other woman just keeps her fed with all these pills. So, and they're probably more into those pills than they are their young son. And also, there's a man and a woman, and the minute the woman finds out that the daughter is missing, the first thing she's doing is guzzling alcohol.
I really think a lot of this movie is infused with the late 79, 80 with so much tension about Love Canal and 3 Mile Island.
Yeah.
And in these like major disasters that it's very much of its time, and it feels just this is a really dark time. Like people always talk about, I know things are bad and stuff now, but I watched WOR a lot growing up, and I've talked about it before. Watching WOR in 1979 in the late 70s, between every criminal had a name. They were like supervillains. And coming out of the Summer of Sam and watching that on TV, like it really seemed like it was the darkest timeline.
I can't believe this movie is 40 years old either, Lana. And it never even occurred to me. But yes, it was made and released in 1980, which makes it 40 years old. And this is the very date that the first screening of The Children appeared.
Are we the 40th anniversary?
Yes.
Oh my God, don't drink to that. I should have made well, this is my children. It's named after their fingernail, so that's good.
Max Kalamowitz says in the commentary on the Blu-ray that it premiered in Tucson, Arizona, June 6th. Now, I actually don't think it did. It actually opened on Friday the 13th of 1980, which is ironic. Another irony that it shares with Friday the 13th.
And 1980 really does seem innocent in places, but I've been watching a lot of Mondos lately, especially like mid 80s Mondos, like This Is America and Killing of America, and those movies make it seem like such a dark time. I wonder when we look back at whatever, if there are any Mondos made of this year, how crazy they're going to be.
Well, 1980 only looks innocent in retrospect. You know, there was a lot going on in 1980. Wasn't that the year of Abscam?
Mm-hmm.
1980. That was one of the many. Then that was the year that Reagan went into office.
The October surprise happened that year.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So there was a lot happening in 1980. And
John Lennon. What year did John Lennon get killed? 80?
John Lennon died in 1980.
Yeah, because I remember I stayed home from school. I couldn't go to school. That's not laughing, but it's sad. I was.
We
not
understand,
allowed.
Sam.
Yeah, I was really.
Deal with it however you have to.
Well, it's funny because I remember when Reagan got shot when I was in school. Our teacher came in and was like all freaked out, and my parents were such hippies. I was like, oh, okay. It didn't affect me as much.
I love that Ben Tramer brought up the lesbian couple in Prey by Norman J. Warren, which is a very weird interpolation of The Fox, the movie The Fox.
It sure is, and that's a crazy movie. And
yeah,
I always appreciate when someone brings that stuff up.
I love that's another Blu-ray I got from Vinegar Syndrome was for Prey.
There's that Warren box set that came out from Indicator too, but is non-region, and I keep debating it because it has like a lot of really good stuff on it.
You just wish you could buy everything no matter what it costs.
Yeah, that's I said. Someone asked me once, how will you know when you're successful? And I said, when I can buy any DVD I want and not think twice about it. That's how I know that I'm successful.
But the first thing you see in The Children is there's an opening scene at what's supposed to be a nuclear power plant, but which is really a gas storage facility outside of New Jersey. And, you know, just use your imagination. But the funny thing is that the script didn't have that scene in it, and there was not an explanation about what the mysterious gas was that turned the children into zombies. They only filmed that scene at the nuclear power plant after shooting on the film had wrapped. And they went back and looked at it, and they were like, it needs something else to explain why this is happening. So they went back and shot that later with a different film crew, I think.
That's crazy. I love the song that the children sing on the bus to their bus driver.
Little
They're
cute
such nice.
bastards.
They're such nice kids that they sing something to him. So whenever they finally get turned, you're like, wow, they really did go all the way.
Well, his wife is Molly, and she says that he's. I think she basically says he's senile.
That's the right guy to drive the bus.
Yeah, because you want to leave senile people in charge of a large vehicle full of children. Is there anything else you want to say before we go into the children?
I'm excited because Mark Dockram just said he owns the Blu-ray. He's seen it 4 times, and he's still excited to see it. You're my kind of people.
Yeah. You are welcome here anytime, Mark.
Yeah, we were trying to think of what to watch next week, and I was like, do people really want to watch Italian post-apocalyptic movies yet? So that's when the shark movies came up. So I feel the same way about like Cruel Jaws. I've seen it so many times, but I feel really excited to bring it to you guys, and I felt the same way about showing Cathy's Curse, and then obviously the children. These thematically work together really well.
Agreed. Yeah, and you can let us know who you think the worst child is. Is it Cathy, or is it the zombie kids of the children?
We should have had a poll, like a little poll. Visit our site for the poll, but just tell us.
Yeah.
After you watch it, we don't need to get technical.
Yeah, this is one of my favorites. I mean, every time I watch it, it's one of those movies where you wonder how it got made in the first place. How did this ever get past the script stage? And somebody said, yeah, I want to invest money in making this killer children freak out called simply The Children. And we hope you all watch it. Come back after the movie, and we'll talk about the damage that this movie will surely do to you. The 1980 jam, The Children. Let's go.
Under 17 not admitted without parents or guardian.
Oh, hi. Welcome back to the Drive-In Asylum double feature featuring Sam Panico and Bill Van Ryn. And wow, it's really a movie that's a big idea to wrap your head around, isn't it? The Children.
It makes me not want to see. If I see any smoke, I get scared.
Especially if it's yellow smoke.
Yeah, watch out for that yellow ice or snow and yellow smoke.
Watch out where the children go. I honestly think that there's something transgressive about this movie, especially in the violence towards the kids, and they get away with it because none of it is realistic.
Yeah, but I like when the hands are cut off, they just sit there like there's no blood. Do you know what I mean? Like when the kids upstairs and the hands are just perfectly posed. It is very surreal how that happens.
There was a story about that on the commentary. Either Carlton Albright or Max Kalamowitz talked about it. It was the makeup people who designed all those effects of the people who were burned. They actually created hands that were, because the hands were supposed to move after they were cut off, and then they would like do this death spasm and their fingernails would turn normal. And I guess the night before they were going to shoot the effects with the hands, they called Carlton Albright and had this big falling out with him over the telephone and left the production and took their special hand with them. So, you know, in 24 hours, the new makeup person, who was the horsewoman, or she was a horsewoman that had been thrown from a horse, and she was taking this like makeup job on the side too. She had to come up with something on the fly, and she just cast their hands in latex and created a somewhat realistic looking hand, not entirely realistic.
Yeah. I mean, I don't really want to see what that really looks like. Also, not to be super realist here, but it's a lot harder to cut hands off Not that I've done it, but going through bone and stuff, that sword better be pretty sharp. I like that katana is just there. It reminds me of that movie Blood Beat, where there's just a suit of samurai armor.
It must have been a Hattori Hanzo
Yeah,
sword.
exactly. It just everybody has a place on airplanes to keep their swords. That's what I've learned from Kill Bill.
So it's interesting. Dustin Fallon mentioned that the sound effects provided by two cats screwing, that really is where they got the sound effects from, for the noise that the children make when they die. It was the sound of cats in heat.
I kind of like the surreal nature of some of those kills and just how weird it is. You can definitely see, as you said, the Salem's Lot influence, but obviously that movie was a big deal, even in the look of the way the kids look. And then we were talking too that there's some new stuff. John just brought up. There's some scenes that are kind of added from the Vinegar Syndrome release of this.
Yeah, the waitress scenes were new. Well, not new, but they were, for some reason, they were cut from the original print of the film. And there's actually more with the waitress that didn't make it into the Vinegar Syndrome release. And the only reason I know that is because you can find a promotional still of the waitress, and she's like screaming, kind of like Jennifer Hart in the beginning of Heart to Heart. It's this shot of her face screaming. So she saw something that made her scream. And we never see that on camera in this cut of the film. So there must have been another scene where she encountered one of the children.
Yeah. Bill and I talk a lot about Heart to Heart, not to interrupt the children. Have you seen the Adult Swim thing that they made where they reshot the beginning of Heart to Heart?
No.
They got Amy Poehler and Adam Scott, and they redid it, and they Horatio Sands as Max, and they basically just reshot it shot for shot, and it's like a documentary about how hard it was to do and how many $1 million they spent to make it look exactly like it. And a big section of it is devoted to the wig that they make for her to look like Stephanie Powers. You'll really like it. I'll find the link and send it to you. But I know Heart to Heart, there's any show like Murder She Wrote, Heart to Heart, these weekly someone has to die dramas are big favorites. But almost every night I get a report from Bill of what happened on Heart to Heart that night and how shitty Max has been treated. That's the other thing I forgot to tell you is I watched Max in a Mexican horror movie this week. Can you guess which one?
Might it be Cyclone?
Yes.
Yeah, that's a stellar classic for sure.
Holy shit, the cast of that movie. I said to Beck, I said, this movie has a cast of like huge stars. And she's like, nobody knows who any of these people are. And I'm like, in my world, all these people are stars.
Yeah, you can't get much higher than Lionel Standard in my
opinion. Who was part of the Red Scare and wasn't allowed to make movies for a long time.
So back to the children. Nora commented that the first 30 minutes is nothing but lackadaisical adults. That's probably one of the strangest things. This is a movie full of strange things, but one of the strangest things is that the minute they discover that the children are missing, there isn't like a manhunt to find them.
They didn't have Amber Alerts back then.
They didn't even call the deputies and make them start looking. I mean, they immediately, the sheriff sent them down to do a roadblock. But other than that, like there should have been a bunch of, people that were rounded up to do a sweep and like, look, all the kids are missing. But instead they're like, we're going to stop by your house and talk to you and like dump your pot in the pool. And oh yeah, your child never came home from school and the school bus was empty on the side of the road.
That dude's still working on his buys and tries though. He's just lifting.
But nobody cares. No one cares about it when they finally hear about it. The swinging couple. Well, let's talk about all the transgressive adults. There was the couple that were swingers.
The lesbian couple, which is not transgressive, but in 1980 was transgressive.
Well, also not only were they a lesbian couple, but they were into pills. I think that was the takeaway point there, was that they were into these pharmaceuticals.
Yeah. And then we have the drunk couple.
Yeah. Their drunkenness got cut out of the film. That's something else that's missing from the children. Yeah. The parents, the one woman gets killed on the porch, you know, and she's like, Ellen. There was more in the movie with them, but that also, for some reason, got cut out of the first print, and now it's considered lost. But you see
And
what a drunk she is.
it's really interesting too because there's no like child abuse suggested in it. Do you know what I mean? Versus like that could be another reason. Dustin Fallon has a great comment. He said, "Was their school from Little House on the Prairie? Because there were 6 kids and they were all different ages." Yes, these were the only 6 kids that live in this town with a giant nuclear reactor that is big enough to have a nuclear reactor and numerous bars. But
They went to a
only has
little
6
red
kids.
schoolhouse.
Yeah, maybe they were gifted children that went to a special Montessori school.
John Fulcher has some interesting trivia that I did not
Yeah.
know. Has another Friday the 13th connection. The lady doctor played a mom in Sean Cunningham's Bad News Bears riff, Here Come the Tigers.
I'm kind of obsessed with the non-Friday the 13th Sean Cunningham movies, like The New Kids. I love that movie.
Yeah, how about A Stranger is Watching?
That too. I was gonna get him. He was here for one when we still had conventions in the old time, in the times before. He was here for one of the Pittsburgh shows, and it was like $70 an autograph. And I'm like, do I really need my Blu-ray of New Kids autographed any more than that? No, not $70 worth. I could buy that galley set that I was telling you about from Vinegar Syndrome at that point.
Nora said that the mom seemed like she was more in the throes of an orgasm versus a birth. And I thought the same thing about the father when his hand got burned and he was shoving it into that bowl of ice and he was like, oh. Yeah, that sounds a little fishy to me.
What's funny is I heard those sounds while I was mixing up my next Dr. Pepper out in the kitchen. And I thought you were making the sounds with it.
No, that was all Martin Shakar, who I think both Carlton Albright and Max Kalamowitz said that he was very difficult to work with on this shoot.
This is an interesting actor choice. You just got your hand cut off. Cool, I'm going to come. Okay, whatever you want to do. However you want to work that out. To each their own.
There was one kid that I remember getting out of the bus before they went through the nuclear cloud. So it was actually probably 7 children. Okay, there was another one. That's still a little red schoolhouse scenario.
Yeah. I wonder if they had those old. Did you ever see like those old schoolhouses that instead of books they had those like sticks that had like books on them? They would have and they would like flip over. I imagine that's what the kids and the children all read from, like little clap books.
The town was called Ravensback, which was it was a twist on the word Ravensbrook, which was a concentration camp that was primarily reserved for children during the war, and the directors deliberately put that in there. And I think they indicated that some people thought that was going too far, and they made them change it a little to, it was going to be Ravensbrook, but they changed it to Ravensback. And then the distributors all wanted them to drop that from the title anyway. They were like, that doesn't sound like a scary movie, so they just called it The Children.
There's a big period where taste doesn't matter in cinema. It's like this is like, I'm thinking of like all the Ilsa movies and stuff. There's no fucking way that this movie or those movies could ever get made where we're gonna sneak onto the Hogan Hero set and make it's not really a comedy, but it's definitely not serious movie about a woman that runs a concentration camp and is testing the limits of female pain. Cool.
She's really mean. And her name's Ilsa.
Yeah, so in the same way in this, it's like, well, we're going to make a movie where a bunch of kids all kill each other and then get killed, and one of the heroes is a smoking pregnant woman. Cool. Go ahead and make that. Here's the money.
She knew she did wrong because she apologized to her unborn child.
Yeah, sorry. We were talking about her TV set, which is awesome because it had a cart so that she could take it around. John just mentioned too that this came out the same year as Peter Benchley's The Island, which is a great thought. Yeah, 1980 was a year for killer kids. I think as we talked
I
about,
love The Island. I think that's a fucking great movie, personally.
1980 really felt like, again, like the end of the world, where child will raise up against parent, to quote Manson. Like Nora just said, like, you could not make it this today. It would just be really, there would be so many people upset about it, and you would almost have to make it a total comedy, and then it would negate some of its nihilistic intention if it was as much as you could make it for laughs. There's no way you could do it.
This is definitely one of those movies. I don't think you could do something like this. Although I think there was a remake of this at one point. Or I think maybe it was just another movie called The Children. It was in 2008.
Yeah. There's another one. I can't remember what the name of it is. There's a Spanish remake too of Who Could Kill a Child that came out too, and nobody really talked
What I'm
about
thinking of, yeah.
Yeah, I think that is The Children, because it's on Tubi, and as everybody I mentioned last week, I'm hunting down Spanish and Mexican movies for my site, and I want to thank Frederick. Yes, the Brainiac will be part of these movies. I did watch it.
Oh, you did?
Yeah, I did. I watched it right after we talked. I watched the Brainiac. Unfortunately, the only copy I could find was the Riff Tracks one, so I just watched it with in Spanish and just listened to it in Spanish. But it's I loved it, and there's a lot more crazy stuff. But yeah, I noticed Who Could Kill a Child, so that may be on the list too. Depends how many I
dressed
get.
up as the Brainiac for Halloween one year. I'll have to find pictures and send them to you.
Oh man, I loved it. There's some really great. Ship of Monsters was another one I just brought up to Bill, which is honestly one of the strangest movies I've ever seen. So I'm really excited to write about that. John just mentioned, is there a musical version of The Children?
There is, and that was another thing I was going to bring up. I'm glad you mentioned that because I might have forgotten it.
But yeah, I'm trying to think of any other movies that have, like, I know there are killer kid movies, obviously, but like kids don't really receive the comeuppance. Generally what happens is they explode or they disappear, or you know what I mean? Like in Children of the Corn, some dark god turns on, do you know what I mean? But it's not like, Rhoda Penmark gets hit by lightning, but you don't see it.
That was a bullshit cop-out ending anyway.
I hate that ending. And I believe that she survived because she's in those the two Mummy movies, pretty much playing the same character. I hate that that's the ending.
I mean, the play she survived. The play just ended where she lived and her mother died.
I love my favorite thing about the movie though is whenever they do the kind of because movies had not yet moved on from plays yet, where they do the curtain call in the movie, and she comes out and she gets spanked at the end of it. It makes me laugh every time. Like it's so great.
It was an interesting directorial choice to have the characters that were so real a moment ago just suddenly dashed before your very eyes. The guy who pulled up in the big car with the chauffeur.
Yes.
That guy was actually their coke dealer. This guy like basically supplied their movie shoot with all their coke, and they put him in the movie.
It's funny because I was telling Bill that I'm doing a week of Saturday Night Live movies. It starts tomorrow. And one of them was the Blues Brothers, and literally like an eighth of the budget or more was set up just for coke, and to keep Belushi from running out and going different places in Chicago, because that's where he's from, they actually built a bar on set, and all the people working the bar were coke dealers. So if he needed anything, he could get it. Well, one night they had a night shoot, and he actually disappeared, and they couldn't find him anywhere, and they were pretty much giving everybody coke so they could stay up all night and do these night shoots. And they said that the whole neighborhood was dark except for one light. So Dan Aykroyd walked over, and he said, as soon as he got to the door, the guy said, "Are you looking for Belushi?" He said, "Yeah," because he's sleeping on my couch. He said he knocked on the door and asked for a peanut butter sandwich and milk, talked to my wife for half an hour, and then asked if he could take a nap. And he's sleeping on my couch. They said, "We just let him in because he's a nice guy." Meanwhile, he was like, covered with coke. So I imagine tons of 80s movies were cocaine fueled, obviously.
And Dustin says, "Do you get a discount if you put your dealer in the film?" Yes, you do, Dustin.
You get special points if you put your Coke into a Coca-Cola can and sniff it with a straw too.
Don't get me started about demons. I could talk about demons all night.
I could too. I love that movie. I'm sure we've talked about it, but it's a perfect movie.
It's one of the perfect films. Yeah. I
Yeah.
agree.
Like there's absolutely no part of that movie that I dislike. There's so much weird, stupid shit in it. There's so many like actors that I love that are in it for seconds. I mean, Michelle Swaby shows up in it, of all people.
Yeah.
For a
And
little
Nicolette Elmy, who was
Yeah.
in all the movies when she was a kid.
Yeah, the little redhead girl.
Is it
There's a
Nicolette or Nicola?
Nicola. And the music's great in it, and the setting's great. The helicopter falling through the ceiling is like, I like that it gets to a point where like, how fucking crazy can this movie get? And you're like, oh, it can get a lot crazier.
Yeah,
But
just
Bob
when you think that it's done everything it's going to do, there's more.
And then when you think it's over, Bob shows up.
Oh yeah, that's right. That one of the guys at the end is Bob from House by the Cemetery. That's another thing that movie does. That movie seems like it's still going on.
Yeah.
It ends and there's still adventure happening. Like now all of a sudden they've done this post-apocalyptic thing.
I really wish that I like Demons 2 a lot, but I really wish Demons 2 had been whatever happened next. I'd like to see what happened next in that world and how many other people have that's another movie with a katana in it and a sword and
Yeah, you're right.
And motorcycle tricks. It's great because it's one of those movies that if you're somebody that doesn't like Italian or doesn't really know about Italian genre cinema or doesn't like gore movies, you're not going to be with it, right? But if you are, like, it's such a perfect ride. It's like everything. I think it's Lamberto Bava's best movie, but I also think that he had a lot of help. But that's my opinion. I like Macabre and I like A Blade in the Dark, but they're far from this movie. Do you know what I mean?
I was really critical of movies when I was a teenager. Like I wanted everything to be as good as my favorite movies.
Yeah.
I was impossible to please, but Demons was one thing because I was renting all this shit on VHS, everything in the store that had anything to do with horror movies. And Demons really satisfied me. I thought that was just a fantastic, from the first watch, I was on board.
I have a really fond love for how mid to late 80s Italian movies look because they're like obviously shot on film and they're, it's at the end of that stock that pulls up those really bright colors. But Demons looks beautiful too. That shot of them coming out of the stage with the fog and everything behind them and the lighting. It's like there's so many perfect shots in the movie.
Yeah, he's certainly living up to his namesake.
Yeah, he is. And there's so many, and obviously I'm obsessed with all the different versions of Demons and all the different titles. And, The Church is kind of sort of a Demons movie.
You did a great article about it on your website.
Oh, thank you. I made a couple people mad. I got so much shit posting on that.
You did. That's how you know you've done well.
Yeah. And they were like, well, these movies aren't connected at all. I'm like, I know. And I said that in the first sentence, that none of these movies thematically have anything to do with each other. However, they're all called Demons and there's a reason for them. Yeah, there's 3 troll movies and none of the troll movies have anything to do with each other either. But
yeah,
and none of the house movies do either. Well, that's a much longer La Casa House nightmare, how those movies interconnect. These are things that only I care about. And then I text Bill in the middle of the night about Ghost House, another one of my favorite movies.
What about the supposed zombie series of films that are completely non-connected?
Yeah, and then there's also the fight about how much did Fulci contribute to Zombie 3.
Yeah.
There's like 2 parts in Zombie 3 that I like, and I think they're the only 2 parts he did. That's the head coming out of the fridge and the DJ, like kind of, because the DJ talking you through the story is a lot like New York Ripper. There's a lot of like crossover between them. But otherwise, you could really stop after Zombie.
Zombie 4 was the one with Jeff Stryker that we were talking about earlier.
Isn't it?
Zombie 5. What do you think of Zombie 5?
Killing Birds?
Yeah.
I kind of like it.
I kind of like it too.
It's junk, but it's, you know what? Even the shittiest Italian junk is better than any American junk. Do you know what I mean? I really like it.
Killing Birds is one of those movies. It's almost a good movie. There's almost something there, but not quite. But what's there is still interesting.
I also watched Beaks this week, which would be a good double up on that. It's not good, and also you can tell that he's basically just throwing birds at people. Which he also did the same thing in Night of a Thousand Cats, just tossed cats at people. It has a great great other name, Falco Terror, which is a great name. Gabriel
Christopher
Tinsley.
Atkins was in Drive-In Asylum.
Oh, was he?
He was in Drive-In Asylum #4. Yeah, it was an old interview that he did with Lee Gambin. And, and Lee contacted me and said, "No, you're doing an eco horror issue. You can rerun my interview with Christopher Atkins about the movie Shakma."
Oh man, he's also in A Night in Heaven and the Pirate movie.
Yeah, he sure was.
He was one of those Tiger Beat boys of the early '80s.
The Blue Lagoon was considered pretty scandalous because there was a lot of nudity in it, and there was a lot of male nudity in it too.
Yes, there's a lot of Italian ripoffs of Blue Lagoon too, which I find inordinately humorous. Yeah. My favorite being Adam and Eve versus the Cannibals, which is like, have you ever seen it?
No.
Oh, Mark Gregory's in it. It's his first movie. Who's trash in the Escape the Bronx movies, who I'm obsessed with. I watched all 11 of his horrible movies. But anyway, he's also in Thunder, which is that series of movie is like Rambo but better. But anyway, they get thrown out of the Garden of Eden and fight cannibals and snake. And it's like, imagine if a bunch of Italians decided to remake the Bible and not pay attention to any of the Bible and just write their own version of Adam and Eve. And wasn't the director of Mad Max actually shot all the nature scenes for it because they stole the footage from a nature documentary he did. It's never come out in America, obviously. I have a real bootleg Blu-ray, which I'm happy to share with you.
Most welcome if you do.
Yeah, but there's a lot of Blue Lagoon. Brooke Shields was in the midst of a bunch. She was in almost every movie, and also 1980, another movie to tie in with the children, came out the same year as the children.
Yeah, that's true. She that was the movie that really put Brooke Shields over the top, was the Blue Lagoon, and that's what made them reissue Alice, Sweet Alice again. Mm-hmm. Suddenly she was hot, even though she's like 8 years old in Alice, Sweet Alice, and she's only in like 5 minutes.
Yeah, she was, but I just remember like everything she did was controversial, even the "Nothing Gets Between Me and My Jeans" commercial, because like I think that's the first, like, yeah, there's always been sexuality and stuff, but it was just seemed so brazen at the time.
Yeah, especially because of how young she was.
Yeah,
she was underage.
Well, because I always think about it like the other genre of movies that I really like is the schoolgirls starting gangs, getting in trouble, like Mamie Van Doren movies. And I love those, but you also think Mamie Van Doren is probably like 28 or 29 when she's playing like a 17-year-old girl. Do you know what I mean? So it doesn't feel as wrong.
Brooke really was underage, and so there was a lot of implied nudity in the Blue Lagoon, even though she
Pretty Baby's the other one that Beth just brought up. That Pretty Baby was a big controversy, I remember.
At least that, though, I mean, the story was about child prostitution. It wasn't. It was exploitative, but you know, at least they thought they had a narrative purpose for it. And the Blue Lagoon was just softcore.
Yeah, that's kind of like that sounds like the excuses I give my wife, where I'm like, you know, Reform School Girls is really about the way that women have to achieve more in life and get out of the systematic oppression of the prison system. Chained heat.
Mark says, are the very early issues of Drive-In Asylum still available for purchase? The early issues are technically out of print. Issues 1 through 7 are out of print, just because I just can't keep up with printing all of them. There's so many of them now that I can't keep them all in stock, and they're sort of, you know, they were our early issues, and we didn't truly come into our own until like around issue 8. So that's what I only stock them back to issue 8 at this point. But At some point, I am going to make a compilation of the first few issues of Drive and Asylum. So we'll make a book.
Yeah, Cinema Sewer does that, and that's what I love because like he doesn't have his old issues anymore, and it's nice getting the books and having like a lot of the issues in one place. A little easier to read than the stack of multiple issues that I have now.
Oh, you like Cinema Sewer?
Yeah, Robin's a good dude. I actually learned a lot of movies from Robin.
Well, Travis Goheen was in Drive and Asylum a couple times. He's from Cinema Sewer too.
Yeah,
He has something coming in up in the horror host issue that we're going to do.
awesome.
And look who it is. It's Gene
Mean
Caruso.
Gene.
Hello, kids. Screening Hammer films outside under the full moon. What Hammer films are you screening, Gene?
Please Be Twins of Evil.
Yeah, or The Gorgon.
Oh, that's a good one. Or Die Die My Darling with Stephanie Powers.
I love The Gorgon. Yeah, I want to go. I wish that it had truly been filmed at an actual location, because like it's got to be the strangest little village ever.
Is that your favorite Hammer?
No, my favorite Hammer films would be one of the Dracula ones. Like I think Dracula Has Risen from the Grave is my favorite one.
I remember us talking about that one time at the drive-in. You're like, I like the later Draculas where he is there's Scars of Dracula and Horror Frankenstein is what he's watching. The later Draculas where he's like part of a cabal of Satanists. Like Dracula has gone from just being a vampire to like ruling the world of Satan.
Hammer had this weird habit of equating Dracula with the devil.
Yeah.
Like they were practically the same thing. Well, you know, Dracula, the devil, they're the same thing.
Yeah. It
But
really
no,
gets
they're
over
not.
the top near the end. I actually just got the Oliver Reed Werewolf one, so I may be watching that tonight. We'll see.
Yeah.
Maybe
One.
yeah, I actually really like Late Hammer. I really like Captain Kronos a lot. I wish they had made 100 of those movies. And it has absolutely nothing to do with Carolyn Monroe being in them.
Countess Dracula is one of my favorites too. I
Yeah.
love Countess Dracula. I just love that. She's one of those characters that's so hard to get a handle on, because she's this old woman that has suddenly discovered that killing a virgin and smearing her blood on her will make her young again. And it just doesn't stop her. She's like, I don't care what it costs. I'm going to keep doing it. I'm going to keep doing it. And she tells her lover, I want you to find people for me to kill so I can be young again. But when I'm young, I'm going to go off with somebody else and marry him instead of you. And you're just going to keep doing it for me. She's a pioneer character.
I would like a crossover with her and Lady Frankenstein in the same movie.
Dustin suggested that we watch Lady Frankenstein for one of our double features.
I'm 100% into that because I love that movie.
Satanic Rites of Dracula. Stop him! She's a vampire. Cathy from Absolutely Fabulous.
Yes, I love Hammer. I really do. I also love Amicus probably equally, if not more.
Yes.
I just watched. I'm doing a week of werewolf movies, and I watched their movie with the werewolf break, which is
The Beast Must Die.
Yeah, and it's like, have you guessed who the werewolf is? Like,
Marlena Clark's in that one too.
yeah. I'm trying to watch werewolf movies that no one else has watched, which is hard. But then again, I was like, well, I'll just watch all the Howling movies. So by Howling 6, I was really in a lot of pain. Which would be
Howling
different.
5 is basically a remake of The Beast Must Die.
It is, yeah. And it's not as good. If you ever want to think, is Howling 2 a good movie? Watch every one after it, and Howling 2 will seem like the best werewolf movie you've ever seen.
I kind of like 5, to be honest. I remember watching 5 and thinking it wasn't all that bad, except it doesn't have a werewolf in it.
No,
that's
well,
the
neither does 2 because they got the costumes from Planet of the Apes, and
yeah, they had a hard time showing you a werewolf in 2. but they
Yeah.
showed you Sybil Danning's breasts.
Hundreds
So-
of times.
That was supposed to be make up for the fact that there were no werewolves in it.
I didn't even notice there wasn't a werewolf.
Yeah, I noticed. Sam.
Yeah.
But there was also Christopher Lee in that movie. In case you were not impressed by Sybil Danning's breasts,
And Reb Brown, your Hunter from the Future,
that's true.
is in that movie.
Who was the female werewolf lead? Not Sturba, but the other.
Marsha Hunt is her name.
Yeah, she was
She
in.
dated Mick Jagger for a long time. She's in Dracula AD 72.
Okay, that was what I was thinking of then.
Yeah. I like also, and we've talked about this before with your Frankenstein 80. I do like when movies have years in them, like Dracula 72.
Well, I think we should wrap it up soon.
Yeah.
It's been about an hour, so.
I'm excited for next week, shark movies, and thanks to everybody that sent me recipes. And I'm excited to make some sharks. I found one recipe for a shark bowl that literally has, you put gummy sharks in, and when you drink it with a straw, that looks like the sharks are swimming around the drink. It has a lot of alcohol in it, so perhaps that is best for movie too.
And I would like my own slice of that shark bowl pie, but I'm sure I won't be able to have any, so I'll just have to live vicariously through you.
Yeah, Becca claims that she'll drink the shark bowl with me, which probably won't happen, but we'll see. She'll be sleeping by movie too.
Well, thanks to everyone for showing up tonight. We really appreciate you coming to hang out with us and talk about movies. I hope all of you for whom The Children was a first-time watch are appropriately disturbed and unsettled.
Yeah, and everybody stay safe this week. Enjoy whatever you're going to watch. Nora, thanks for the kind words. That makes me feel really good. Thank you so much.
We love you too, Nora. Thanks for hanging out with us, and everybody else too. We'll see you next weekend, same time, same place, Saturday night, 8 p.m. Stop back and watch some more movies with us. We'll watch Cruel Jaws and The Last Shark, aka Great White. And until then, peace out.
Under 17 not admitted without parents or guardian.